Kabir Sheikh is a research scientist and director, Health Governance Hub, Public Health Foundation of India. His experience of health policy and systems research, teaching and training, health systems strengthening and policy development extends to states in India and several other low and middle income countries. He is published widely in peer-reviewed journals, including co-editing the book on health providers in India on the frontiers of change. Kabir?
Thank you, Rama. I'm going to go straight into my presentation because I'm aware of the limitations of time. I'm going to be talking about a contested and controversial issue, and probably an issue which many of you will have reflections on, and many of you might be the subject of, since I believe at least maybe half of the audience may be medical doctors. I'm talking about analyzing power in health systems, the case of medical dominance in India. This is a quick overview of the presentation. What do we know? What's currently been written? What has currently been published on this issue of power in policy and health systems? And I'm going to go on and showcase findings from 3 case studies that we've conducted at various points in time over the last 5 to 6 years. And then I'm going to end with a brief conclusion. So I think these must be familiar to most people who worked in policy. They are symbols for various instances of the use of power and various instruments of power as it's applied in public policy. You can apply coercive methods through the use of punitive and disciplinary action. You can apply incentives which may be monetary or non-monetary. And there's increasing recognition now of approaches which bring people on shared platforms with common with a common sense of ideas. And that's what could be called the co-optation form of power. But I want to use that this sort of a trio to highlight that these are actually very blunt instruments which have been highlighted by policymakers. And if we actually study power in the context of public policy, it emerges to be a very complex and multidimensional concept. And there's a lot of layers to it which go beyond the simple application of carrots and sticks. It's a relational entity. Actors exercise power either by bringing authority to bear, by resisting that authority, or by not acting at all. Another form of power which has increasingly been given attention in public policy is that elite groups have a role in shaping ideas on a large scale, which then forms, which is a form of power that they exercise, and then which then forms the basis for actions on a large scale. And finally, there's now very recently increasing attention to what's called communicative power, and that's the power of organizing action through discourse and bringing people together on common platforms. So I'm just going to start with a brief overview of what is currently known about medical power in health systems. I'm going to refer back to some scientists from the north, and not really from low-income context, but their work has been very influential in this area. Elliot Friedson from the 1970s highlighted the importance of the fact that doctors control how their profession is organized, and that then allows them to control the production and utilization of health knowledge. A much more polemical text by Ivan Illich focused on how doctors have power over interpretations of health and illness, and how the profession uses this power to perpetuate its own interests, not only the interests of those it serves. In the Indian context, we have various instances of how doctors exercise power in health systems. We are obviously aware that doctors flout regulations and guidelines on a wide scale. This is, of course, not exclusive to doctors, but there are other instances of how doctors exercise power. Doctor organizations have widely been reported to oppose reforms that reduce their control over health markets. And in 2010, an interesting paper by Venkatesan spoke about doctors' challenge of the democratic institutions of the parliament and judiciary in the context of the anti-reservation movement. On the other hand, various authors have also highlighted aspects of vulnerability of doctors. Right from 1977, Roger Jeffrey has highlighted the issue of vulnerability of doctors to political intrusion in medical policy. Dr. Rama Baru has written about demoralization of government doctors in commercialized systems. And then we've got this fair amount of literature on how doctors experience uncertainties in a changing market climate and when faced with conflicting policy directions. So to summarize that, what do we currently know about medical power in health systems? We know that the power of doctors is widely understood to be a significant feature of the organization of societies, not only of health systems, but of entire societies. Medical power can retard policy reform in specific areas. It can also impede policy implementation in specific areas. It is clearly established to be a key determinant of health systems performance, but it's also a word that people don't, it's also not something that people like to talk about in policy context. It's a dirty word. It's something that is not well articulated as a determinant of health systems performance. And finally, it's also difficult to research due to its extreme subjectivity, complexity, the hidden nature, and the political connotations of such research. So I just want to highlight what we've used to research power. This is an approach called bottom-up implementation analysis using in-depth qualitative methods. We don't necessarily focus our studies on power, but what we found is that in many of our studies, power has emerged as a crucial determinant of health systems or policy performance. So these are 3 studies that I'm just going to quickly provide snapshots of: implementation of global public health guidelines, doctors' reasons for staying on in rural areas, and performance of health regulatory institutions. So moving into the first study, we find an interesting paradox of how doctors' power exists in the health system when it comes to implementing public health guidelines. On the one hand, they resist pressures to follow the guidelines, but on the other hand, many of them privately, they have good reasons for not following those guidelines, yet they could not really play a role in influencing policy change to bring about the necessary changes that they thought were required. So it's a combination, it's a sort of a paradoxical balance. Here are some quotations to illustrate that. From a senior public health official, they come to meetings, but they don't say what they feel. Otherwise, in private, if you talk to 100 doctors, 80 will say that they oppose the guidelines. And then this really insightful quotation from a government doctor that the general interpretation of the personal opinion is that you are doing something irrational. A very different study and ethnography of doctors working in remote rural areas in Chhattisgarh, highlighted by their vulnerabilities, unsupportive administrative structures, unaccountable promotion and transfer policies, and poor access to continued education. Some quotations here which highlight their extreme vulnerability, especially of the doctors who are in contractual service. Sometimes they don't receive the training that would help them to fulfill their roles better. And finally, the third case study on the performance of health regulatory organizations. So of course, here again, our emphasis was not at all on highlighting power, but power emerged as a finding from our broader research question on understanding the performance of regulatory organizations. So the key finding here is a lot of private interference with regulatory norms and activities, interference from private interests and private organizations. Repeated amendments of regulatory acts following contestation by professional associations. Conditions of rural practice regulations were widely contested again by professional associations. Health facility inspections were frequently contested by the owners who often had political influence to bear. Difficulties in obtaining negative testimony is a very interesting finding from medical professionals in consumer forums. So what does this tell us? What do these 3 case studies tell us? It gives a mixed picture. Medical professionals hold sway over key administrative and regulatory institutions, both from the inside and from the outside. And power is directed, but curiously, power is directed towards protecting pecuniary and petty interests, political interests, rather than the upliftment of medical science or practice. Urban doctors feel that they have no power to change policy guidelines and norms of practice. And on the other hand, rural doctors also struggle to perform under sometimes unjust and negligent administrations. So to conclude quickly, medical professional power, it's just validates that our existing finding that medical professional power influences health systems performance in varied ways. But however, understanding doctors' vulnerabilities is equally important if we are to have a holistic understanding of power in health systems. Crucially, health systems mirror societal norms, structures, and balances of power. And in that context, influencing power equations, changing what to be considered to be abuses and misuses of power will require not only systemic reform, but societal reform and upheaval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kabir.